Hello, Cooper Columbus, 1972, also known as Brian, of course. You probably everybody knows that now. At least I think so. So I have let's see, four, five, six, 8 or 9 movies that I watched this past few weeks. The reason why I'm on I work at the library. We have, you know, when it's a government vacation, we don't have to work. So I was watching a little bit more stuff, and I would have done it probably on the Saturday, or if I felt like it, maybe a Sunday. But I carried it into Monday because I didn't go anywhere today. The weather's really bad out there right now. But anyways, so let's get to it. So first off, and I don't think I've been on for quite some time with these um, movie reviews, films I've watched. I One of the movies I'm thinking of, it's a box set that I borrowed from a friend of mine, and I can't remember. I think no, I showed it on my channel. I'm thinking of buying it. It's called Female Prisoner Scorpion. It's a series of Japanese films with Mako Kaji, which direction did I think Lady Snowblood was after that, which is in a beautiful Criterion. The second one, I think it's called Lady Snowblood's Revenge, wasn't as great, I thought, but you get those two together when you buy it from Criterion. Um, I guess I'll talk about that maybe when I buy it. I'm thinking of buying it. Um, Anyways, let's get to the films I've watched. Okay, so first off, we have a film from China. It's from 2013. It's called A Touch of Sin, directed by Jia Zhangke, Jia. That's the first name, or maybe it's the last name. Zhangke. Because I know in Japan that the last names sometimes come first before the first name. Well, not sometimes. I think that's the way they name people, address people. I think that's the same way in China too. Maybe other Asian places. So, boy, I'm really trying to remember it because I watched it on January 6th. I don't think I've mentioned this. I don't think I've mentioned any of these movies yet. Um, Anyways, I liked it a lot. It's about what happens in it. There's a guy on the lam. He's trying to escape from the police. He's killed some people, and it's kind of a grim movie. And it's just these people facing these predicaments. Um, a young man facing losing his job and losing a girlfriend, and not a lot of flexibility in his life, as far as work goes and personal time goes. And there's another person that's she I wish I could remember what she's doing where. Well, you know what? I'll try to be on more on top with these videos. Like every week maybe. I let it lapse a little, and you can see I forget. And I'm 46, so I can't remember everything. I have a little bit of a memory gap sometimes. But this film was really good, and I highly recommend it. It's from 2013, and I'd give it out of 5 stars. I'd give it probably give it 4, at least 4, or maybe I should give it 4.5. I give it 4.5. The next film is directed by Ken Russell. It stars Oliver Reed and Alan Bates, and I think it's Glenda Jackson is the other person, and the other female interest. I can't remember her name. And the actress in this film, she won an Oscar for this film. I'm talking about Women in Love. Women in Love is this British movie that's based on a D.H. Lawrence novel. It's about these young women, the sisters, and their life growing, living in England, and how they're spending time with these two women. And it's got some interesting scenes. Like one of the things that really stuck out for me was Oliver Reed and Alan Bates. Yeah, Alan Bates. At a certain point in the film, they take all their clothes off and they wrestle each other naked. And I think that's kind of, well, I think Ken Russell and the other commentary was the writer and producer of the film, who was an American. Like Oliver Reed almost backed out at the last second of doing that scene because he got a note from his doctor saying he shouldn't do it. And Ken Russell wanted him to do it. So they did it. And I thought the film was kind of boring. I do like The Devils. The Devils is a great movie. I really enjoy that a lot. I haven't seen Lair of the White Worm. But Women in Love, I just couldn't get into it. Parts of it are kind of interesting. Like one of the other women does this like modern dance kind of thing in one of the mansions. So that was pretty cool. There's some interesting shots, like when Alan Bates and his female love interest, they have this very artistic, expressionistic kind of shot where they put the camera on its side and they move it along the naked body of Alan Bates and of his female love interest. I like that a lot. So it has some cool images in it. And Alan Bates gives a speech about a ripe fruit and how it represents part of the woman's anatomy. So, but I just didn't like this film. It was dull and just I think I couldn't wait for it to end. So I don't think I'm going to recommend it. I'll give it maybe 2.5 stars, marginal thumbs down. Okay, so yeah, and what I've written down a few of the films I watched, but some other of the films I watched I did not write down. The reason being, maybe I feel kind of lazy and I just don't feel like writing them down. Maybe I will next time when I'm on this, but for the time being, at least for this time being, it's going to be this way. So the third movie I watched was a film called Tar Bella. I used to be a filmmaker. But Bela Tar is a famous Hungarian, I think he's from Hungary, Hungarian director. I've seen 2 of his films. I've seen Satan Tango, which I liked a lot. He sort of harkens to Tarkovsky with really long takes. Like in Satan Tango, this is not the film I saw, but in Satan Tango, he'll shoot one scene from one angle, the whole shot, just one continuous shot, and then another part of the film he'll show the other part, like if it's set in a room and the camera's pointed at the wall, then for like 8 minutes, and then after that, somewhere in the movie, he'll repeat the same shot, but not the same shot, but he'll put the camera on the other side of the room and shoot the same 8 minutes. And he does sort of like, it's before the Matrix, so there's Matrix kind of people still effects, standing still. And I don't think no, they didn't use CGI. They just had these actors stand perfectly still. But anyways, this particular movie is a documentary about the Turin horse and about how it's his last movie. And that's the other film I've seen of his is Turin Horse, which I wasn't wild about. I like Nietzsche. The Turin Horse was like a reference to Nietzsche seeing a horse being beaten and wrapping his arms around the horse, and took place in Turin, Italy, and that's where the title comes from, I guess. But the film's kind of dull to me, but the making of it was pretty fascinating. That's the thing sometimes. Like I saw Cold Mountain quite a few years back. I didn't like the movie, but the making of it was fantastic. So if you don't like the Turin Horse, I don't think that really matters. And it also shows stuff from his previous work, being Workmeister Harmonies. I'd like to see that, but I haven't seen it. I don't know where to get access to it. We'll have to see what happens. And of course, Satan and Tango, which I've seen before. So now, and so I told you about Woman in Love. I'm borrowing it from a friend of mine. So here's the cover. It's a Criterion. The back. And there's the fruit that Alan Bates is talking about. And so so it's got looks like William Blake here. Let's see. So that's what's inside the disc. Some people might not agree with me about Woman in Love. They might think it's a great film, and I just was kind of bored by it. Okay, so next up, we've got, before we get to some DVDs, I'm going to do something that I really haven't done on my channel, and that's, you'll still see me on camera, but I won't see me because I'm looking on Google for the information about the films I watched. So I'm going to do that right now. Just bear with me. So, I'm not really Google on this. I went on to Netflix and I watched two films on there, both involving Orson Welles. And the first film I watched was a feature, the film they managed to hobble or piece together, whatever. His last film that he couldn't complete, or maybe he shot almost all of the movie, and they put in some end shots, like snapshots. Not snapshots, is that a good word? More like still pictures to fill out the rest of the film, and a few cards in the film saying "scene missing" or whatever. So, but anyways, the name of the movie that Orson Welles directed is called The Other Side of the Wind. You can see it on Netflix. And I basically wanted to watch it because I didn't want to miss it, because I noticed that on Netflix some of the films were interested in, not just movies, but television shows like Cosmos with Neil deGrasse Tyson. It's gone, which is kind of upsetting. And they have international films, but you can't break it down into just separate countries like you can on Fandor. Let me just go back to the Netflix page because let's see. So, of course, the director, Orson Welles, and the film is about a film director, and I think he's going to make a movie. Um, and he has a party. The party sort of, lights go out. The party sort of reminds me of La Notte by Antonioni. Um, and maybe it was because, um, if I recall correctly, where they shot the house party scene was near where Antonioni shot Zabriskie Point. Anyways, so John Huston plays the director character, and Oja Kodar's in it, who plays one of the. She's the actress. She's the star actress for his film. So you see two things. You see a mockumentary, um, which I think was way ahead of its time when it came out. Which, well, actually, I don't know. I don't see the year on here. Um, but Oja Kodar, I think, was also his wife, and she co-wrote the screenplay with Orson Welles. And John Huston plays this drunk. I guess he's a drunk, and he's kind of loose. Is it loose the right word? You know, he's just not very. He's not very. How would you put it? He's not very careful of the way he speaks. He just lets it. He lets it just show what he has to say, and but he's sort of, the dialogue is what I love about the movie. You know, maybe I've said on this channel before. I'll go back to the camera for a second here. What I've said on this channel before is I'm not a fan of like dialogue heavy films like Pulp Fiction or Reservoir Dogs or My Dinner with Andre. But this particular film, I really thought that the dialogue worked. Maybe it was kind of sparing. Maybe the visuals helped. I think, and this will lead into the other film, which also involves Orson Welles. I think Orson Welles was shooting some of the scenes of this particular movie, The Other Side of the Wind, without permits around the studios around L.A. I think that's what Peter Bogdanovich was saying. And speaking of Peter Bogdanovich, he plays like an assistant or another director, a young director. And then there's some other people here that I see. Susan Strasberg, I don't know who that is, or Robert Random, or Lily Palmer, Norman Foster. Mercedes McCambridge, that's a pretty recognizable name. I think it's a he, maybe, who was in Twilight Zone, and or maybe it's a she. If I'm thinking correctly, she was the voice of Regan in The Exorcist. In this particular Orson Welles film, he also puts in other directors, like directors he's helped, like Henry Jaglom, who did a film with Orson Welles called I can't remember the name of it. It's right in my bookcase in my BBS story, but I can't remember the name of the movie. A Quiet Place, A Safe Place. I think it's called A Safe Place. And Claude Chabrol, French director, he makes an appearance in this movie. And the dialogue is so wonderful in the film. Like they have a young girl there, so John Huston is kind of a sleazeball the way he talks sometimes, because he's drunk and he doesn't care what comes out of his mouth. And he says to the girl, he says, well, I'll write a note to your teacher. You know, she says, I have school tomorrow or whatever. And she's at this party, you know. That's like one of the great lines of dialogue. Or there's another scene where there's a young filmmaker. He says, I want to make film someday. I really, maybe something like I admire you. And John Huston sort of puts him off. Like he sort of says, "Oh, you want to be a filmmaker? Okay." And that basically is it. You know, he leaves. He says it ironically. He doesn't really. It's this film is fantastic, even though not all of it was complete, but most of it looks kind of complete. So highly recommend it, and I'd probably give that film probably just because of the fact that it wasn't finished the way Orson Welles. Maybe he has notes like he did for Touch of Evil to re-edit the film the way he wanted it, which Walter Murch did for Touch of Evil. That's why if you get that version, you'll see it for what Orson Welles exactly wanted you to see it for. So I'm gonna give it 4 stars out of 5 because if Welles was alive or he finished a picture or whatever, and maybe he did reshoots or whatever, it probably would be a 4.5 star film. So that's what I'm giving it 4. So that leads into the next movie. And that's the next film is called. Sorry, I'm going along in this.
The Wind is the crazy picture. It's not a work of fiction.
It's a documentary about the making of The Other Side of the Wind, and it's a little bit about more than just that. It's about his career and how he tried to revive it towards the end of his life, and it's sort of sad what happened towards the end of his life. They couldn't get his film finished.
It's not a work of fiction. It's a little of everything. It's kind of a departure in movie making.
I'm trying to make sure I don't tread too much on, copyright issues, because I try to be careful about that. So the director for the documentary is a guy named Morgan Neville, and the cast is Orson Welles. And Alan Cumming he narrates the movie. So that's pretty fascinating too. I think I can get back to iMovie now and just look at the camera. I give The Other Side of the Wind probably 4.5 stars out of 5. Okay, so now, boy, I'm really going on. So now we got 3 more movies. This first one is something I took out of the library. A few people on YouTube have mentioned how they like this movie, and Facebook too, maybe. LJ, Draco, and Sean, otherwise known as Slipcover King. I think Sean likes this too. It's a Marvel movie. It's Venom with Tom Hardy. The reason why I decided to watch this movie was because Tom Hardy was in it, and I really find him to be a fantastic actor. He was great in The Revenant. He was great in Mad Max Fury Road. Mad Max Fury Road. I did not like The Dark Knight Rises, but I think I've seen Tom Hardy in something else, and I can't remember what it is. But I think he's a real versatile actor. Is that the right word, maybe? But anyways, what happens in this film is, what happens? These scientists, they capture an alien life form, and they start using homeless people in San Francisco as test subjects to see how these liquid beings or whatever they are, how they react to human beings used as guinea pigs to, and these aliens, they penetrate the people's bodies and start to take over their mind and body, whatever. I don't know. It seemed like too much CGI and just craziness, and um, I guess it was sort of fun. I'll give it a marginal thumbs up. I'll give it a 3 because you've seen it a lot before, but some of the act. It's a fun movie, but I give it a 3, which means just good but not great. Next up, we have another film. Sasha recommended this to me. I finally watched it. I listened to the commentary on it. I watched the special features, and that's Lee Marvin and John Boorman's Point Blank with Angie Dickinson and Keenan Wynn and Carol O'Connor and where's the other character, one of the main characters? I don't see him here. I don't think. He was a Canadian actor, as I found out by watching the special features and listening to the commentary. The commentary is also done is facilitated by Steven Soderbergh, and it's a very nice commentary. Anyways, the plot of the movie is that Lee Marvin's character has been slighted. He's supposed to receive like $90,000 in money, and he doesn't get it, and he goes through a whole group of people in order to finally be able to capture that money. And the editing is fun because it plays around with like the past and the present. It might be some of it daydreamish. I don't know, but some of this film they shot at Alcatraz Island in San Francisco Bay. This film came out on, I think, 1967. But yeah, it's pretty good. What can I say about this? I saw that Soderbergh was asking Boorman about color palette, and Boorman was saying things like, it's not like today's film that more, maybe can get in more color because of the film stocks are less saturated or more saturated. They're more saturated now, I guess. So they had to put a lot of lights, and they shot sort of monochrome for this particular film because this is John Boorman's first film in color. I think it was his second feature, and he had carte blanche, final say on what win and what didn't on the film and he got that through Lee Marvin hiring him as the director, and he told the studio back off and let him do what he wants, So Lee Marvin's character wants revenge, but you'll see, like, is it worth it going after this $90,000? You'll see that. And it has one of those loose endings, which I love about 60s films, 70s films, that you don't get with, these Hollywood wham bam kind of conclusive, happy ending and everything's fine kind of ending. It's more of incomplete and just leaves you sort of hanging there. And I like that. So I'm gonna give it maybe at least 4 stars. I don't know if I should give it 4.5 or 4. I'll give it 4.5. I think it's pretty good. So, and last off, boy, I'm really going on long. This is the last film though. Death of Stalin, which I borrowed from the library. My friend Sasha, he bought this, and I wanted to see how good it was. I think I've heard it's good. It's all about Stalin dying and the Politburo, the Communist Committee, trying to find out what to do next. What's the next step in their history of the Soviet Union? Steve Buscemi plays Nikita Khrushchev, and a lot of them were British actors, so I'm not aware of them. Michael Palin plays Molotov, who is, I believe, when I listened to the book on CD of The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, he was Stalin's sort of ambassador. He was like a Secretary of State. So, like if he would come as the messenger for the Soviet Union to meet the messenger of Hitler's, when they were working out treaties and all that kind of stuff. So it's supposed to be a comedy, but they do it with a straight face, and that's what I think makes the film kind of ridiculous and funny. Sort of, it just occurred to me now that it sort of makes me think of Dr. Strangelove, that how crazy things are. They just do it with a straight face, and that makes it funny. So even though there's a lot of horrible things that Stalin did, I think he killed over 1 million people, more than Hitler. I think it was many million. Maybe it was like 10 million, 20 million. But that doesn't focus too much on the film. It's more about the follow-up to how the country would go on without him. So it's interesting seeing how they're going back and forth and trying to gain power and the horror of such an existence, where one little false move and you're dead, people being taken out of their apartments or houses and being, shot, So I'm going to give this film out of 5 stars. I give it 4. I think it's excellent. Of course, it's not the greatest film that was ever made, and why would it? But yeah, I'll give it 4. So that finishes it. I'll try next week, which means this coming Saturday or Sunday, to do another video of films I've watched. So thanks for watching. Check out my GarageBand videos. I'll put a sign on before I leave it, before this finishes, and I'll put my blog up. That does it. I won't keep you any longer. Thanks for watching. See you in the near future.